Hi guys, welcome to really? Oh, for God's sake. Oh, sorry, didn't see you there. Hold up guys, can we just run that again? Hello, and welcome to Get Real. My name's Alex Willie, and in today's episode, we throw out the script. Wait, blast, I need that. Hold on a sec. And embrace chaos with the theme Unplanned. With the lack of preparation often comes a sense of vulnerability. More often than not, our decision making is unrehearsed, split second. In a way, there's nothing more real than acting on instinct. So I went out to talk to people about footpaths of all things, to find out why some people choose the path they're going to take, why some just follow a desire path.
I started this documentary on a whim. I asked all of my friends on Facebook what they would like to see a doco made about, and this one stood out. Desire paths are things we all notice in our day-to-day lives, yet few of us have a name for them, and we rarely give them more than a fleeting thought when faced with the decision to take them or not. Some people obviously consider the way we navigate space more than others, but you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone outside of the field of landscape architecture that have considered these paths beyond that.
So what is a desire path? Well, a desire path is something that forms over time by humans using it. Instead of using the main path, they choose to use a better path that gets them straight to their goal.
I was aware of a fair few desire paths already, but I quickly found myself stopping at every piece of discoloured earth like it was an archaeological site, looking around and waiting for someone to come and walk over it to prove what I thought I was seeing. I sat up near to a heavily used desire path and asked people I saw taking either the dirt path or the footpath why they had done so. Firstly though, I had to introduce the topic. Did people even know the dirt paths had a name? And why do people take them?
I took the dirt path because I believe it's faster than taking the footpath.
I didn't take the dirt path because I was wearing my good shoes, Julius Marlowe's.
I took the footpath back up the hill because I actually had time, but I will admit that I took that path on my way down to university because I was running late.
I think a lot of it probably has to do with it just being quicker, but I'm sure there's an aspect of social affect where people just do it because other people are doing it.
I don't see it as rule-breaking behaviour because there's no rules that say that you have to stick to the footpath and that you can't walk on the grass.
The most common answer I got though was,
I'm not quite sure.
I started thinking about paths constantly and drawing my own conclusions for how and why different ones existed.
This is one desire path that I'd be inclined not to take because the grass is perfectly fine and offers a faster route. But if I was doing something like just taking a leisurely stroll or looking at my phone, like many obviously are, then I would probably stray to the safer route. Safer for the unwatchful eye at least.
Friends kept texting me that they couldn't stop seeing desire paths, and so I went to Melbourne Uni to meet with one of them, Gabrielle, to see how desire paths are discussed by the only people that appear to discuss them.
You study landscape architecture and design, yeah?
Yeah.
So, and you guys incorporate it in your study?
To a certain extent. I think the way that I would describe it is that we more have the responsibility of considering how desire paths work and how people approach sites in ways that might not be the prescribed and designed way.
I could have talked to Gabrielle for hours, and we did speak for some time, often straying away from the path I'd hoped we'd take in the conversation. One thing she said, though, really stood out.
The way we navigate space is culturally informed.
With that in mind, I sought out Dr. Julie Rodner, who has a background in cultural geography that integrates urban planning and ecological psychology, to find out if she could shed some light on the cultural reasons why people do and don't take desire paths.
Yep, I think at night people may not take the shortest route. They'll take a longer route if the longer route has more people, more lighting, and it feels safer. This is particularly true, I think, for women and also in very mixed multicultural areas, depending on how comfortable someone is with the other groups with whom they live. I think that's one aspect to it. I think also for adventure, you know, we hear about kids doing parkour or BMX riding. They're going to take different paths because they're going to see the environment quite differently in terms of what they can do and what they want to experiment with.
This whole project had started as an experiment, an adventure down the trodden path to see what and who we would find. But with no real direction, it was starting to get off course. So I went back to Melbourne Uni to meet with Andrew Seneca, one of Gabrielle's lecturers, who loves desire paths and says he makes a point of taking them.
The desire paths are crucial. When one is given a project and we undertake a site analysis to start the project, one of the things we're trained to do at first is to seek out design paths because they're an indication of where people want to travel. And in that sense, I think they're valid, they're interesting, and they're useful. There's a sensorial quality of design paths that I think understated. And you know, maybe it's a shortcut, maybe it's just about laziness. But I think in some respects, desire paths take us off the beaten track, so to speak. However, as I started out, if this mound that we're standing on was your design from a landscape architecture point of view, you'd probably be considered to have failed, you know, because you haven't put a path where people want to travel.
As time went by, I felt like I'd barely scratched the surface, or at least that every time I followed a new path of inquiry, it would lead to more paths.
Humans have always led a life of distraction. And evolutionarily speaking, we've always needed to be alert of our surroundings. But following a well-trodden path that others have walked before you is safer and easier. It gives you more time to focus on what's up and around you. The luxury of being able to look up instead of down on what's in front of you is not something that all of our ancestors had. And so when we walk these trodden paths, safe in the knowledge that others have walked before us, we get the chance as a species to look up and find new paths. Now that I'm back, I'll just quickly wash my hands and get you ready for something a little lighter and a little fluffier as we take a step into Carl's kitchen. Whoa, jeez. Sorry, it's this way.
Oh yeah, I am head chef Pierre Lechal. I am of course, as always, joined by the butter boy and the egg pusher. Oh yes, butter boy, come here. Come here, sir. Welcome to the kitchen. I'm Carl, and today we're going to be going over the most important meal of the day, breakfast. Now, every culture has their own signature dish for breakfast, but since I'm uncultured, we're going to be doing eggs. Now, an important question for the crew. How do you like your eggs?
Scrambled.
Edible. So to start off, we're cooking for 3, so we'll need about 2 eggs per person. That comes out to 6. There are multiple methods of cracking an egg, so you've got the old English method, the French method, the Brazilian, and the Portuguese. It's a lot harder than you think. There we go. This is the part we will edit out. Now, our eggs are cracked. We don't want to season them just yet. Now let's take it to the stove. Okay, so remember which burner you're on. This one here. Whoop. There we go, perfect. Turn the heat down to low. Scrambled eggs is much like risotto. You want to keep it moving around quite a lot. And of course, the way we're cooking this right now is the English method, where you're cooking such in a pan on medium heat. There's also my patented method, where you put in a pan, run the heat way too high, burn your butter, chuck in your eggs, burn your eggs, and wind up with more fried egg curds than scrambled egg. I call that one shambled eggs. To our toaster. Now we'll just do 2 slices at a time. Salt and pepper. black pepper. Now, in an ideal world, you'd use white pepper, but we're using black because in an ideal world, I'd also have the budget to afford white pepper. You just want to fold them in and plate those up to your crew. And there you have it. Simple, delicious, easy to make scrambled egg recipe. They're going to take my first Michelin star away.
We've had a lot of fun today talking about the benefits of a lack of planning. But honestly, there are plenty of times in life when planning is essential. This episode, for instance, took weeks to make, and that documentary took months. What goes into it is writing, scripting, booking equipment, locking in talent, all just to get it to your screen. In fact, this is just some of the stuff that goes into getting this one shot. So now, we're going to go and speak to an expert in town planning, Dr. Andrew Butt, to learn a little more about the benefits of putting a bit more thought into some of the more important things.
It's pretty hard to do my job and not walk around and just look at things and go, why is it like that? You know, I don't casually walk down the street, I kind of critique it as I go. And I, in terms of, I mean, I think I do, and I probably need, you know, at times I try not to, but it's an impulse, it's an instinctive thing that you're kind of thinking, well, you know, what would be the system or mechanism to make this better? Why has someone done that? Why would someone behave like that or act impulsively in that way when you could do this? We're pretty confident that we can't know everything and that finding out more and more information is not going to make better decisions. And the second thing is that we've kind of lived now in an era where we anticipate that, you know, markets are a proxy for public interests and public decisions. If we think about, you know, do people feel safer in a busy street or a quiet street? Do they feel safer in a busy green space or a quiet green space? Do they want to walk straight diagonally through the middle of a large green in the middle of Glasgow, which, you know, which I've seen not in the middle, in some of those housing areas, or when the path actually tries to lead you around it, and so you have these barren kind of underutilised soccer pitches and stuff like that in the middle of places, and they become sort of trouble places for youths to go and drink cider all night or whatever it might be, however people might see trouble. But in fact the design has actually led to the idea that they're not useful for anything else. Why would anyone go there? And then when people are forced to go there from the bus to their house, they're just forced to be in a place they don't feel safe in.
Aren't these guys going to be sick of seeing my face? Like, I've been on screen for like 11, 12 of the 15 minutes now. I mean, yeah, sure, whatever you say. That's about all we have time for today. But before we go, we're going to go and meet Amber, who turned a large unplanned event into a creative enterprise.
For a long time I had wanted to write something myself because I was always working on other people's projects. And I've got this dear friend who experienced a very similar thing. She talked about the word echo, which is the name of the show, and something that we were sort of trying to figure out what we actually meant by that. Hi, I'm Amber, and I turned an unplanned event into a show. La Mama is an amazing theatre that promotes Australian and independent work, and I'm the front of house manager here and venue manager. And so I was working in a retail store, like I was really into cooking and stuff, really into music, and we discovered we had a very similar taste in music, which is kind of why we fell in love in the first place. So my story is a lot about the struggles that I had with my partner and the fact that for the first time in our relationship we stopped talking because we had different ideas about what to do. So yeah, I was really in a really bad way, probably about 3 or 4 weeks later. I couldn't really do anything, and he had just started a new job, so he couldn't really take time off work. So I'd spoken to a handful of people and that had sort of been through what I'd been through, and they felt the same. So that gave me a lot of relief that I wasn't a bad person. I think over-planning is one of the biggest mistakes that people make. Hi, I'm Amber, and I turned my unplanned pregnancy into a show about motherhood. So there's a bit at the beginning of the show where they talk about motherhood echoing, and people talk about their own mothers, and it deals with expectation from society, you know, doctors doctors' opinions, stuff like that. So that's a big part of the show. So yeah, I think if we'd planned the baby, the show would be very different.